All right, everybody, thanks for coming back. I ended up accidentally taking a break, and now I realized I need to get back on the wagon here. So we're going to delve right into it. Chapter 4 Why Be Good? The first great Art Deco movie palace was the Hollywood Pantages, or Pantage, or Pantages. I'll be honest, I don't know how it's pronounced, and I don't care. I'm going to call it Pantage because it sounds fancier. It was in 1930, at Hollywood and Vine, designed by an inspired theater architect B. Marcus Prateca. It is still in operation and is now mostly used for roadshows of Broadway musicals. 9 years earlier, Prateca had designed another theater for the tycoon entrepreneur Alexander Pantage, a beautiful, eclectic Beaux Arts edifice in the heart of downtown LA, at the corner of at the corner of Hill and 7th. In the downtown theater, on the fateful afternoon of August 9th, 1929, a plump teenage girl wearing a low-cut red dress ran screaming out of the janitor's broom and mop closet on the mezzanine. The audience could hear her hysterics above the music score of the feature picture. A theater employee raced to the scene of the shrieks. The girl collapsed in the youth's arms. She screamed, "There he is, the beast, the great god Pan! Don't let him get at me!" She pointed to a middle-aged man with silvery hair, stumbling about in the office adjacent to the mop closet. It was the boss, Pantage. A traffic policeman summoned from the street arrived. Pantage bellowed, "She's trying to frame me." Thus began an affair which would not only result in several sensational Hollywood trials, but would establish new legal principles which would come to bear on future rape cases. Pantage had been born in Athens. He came to this country before the turn of the century. He shined shoes, sold newspapers, then operated penny arcades and Nickelodeons. He made his way to Alaska during the Klondike Gold Strike, amassed a pile of nuggets, and returned from the wilderness in 1902. He brought a rundown theater in Seattle, and with his natural flair for showmanship, kept the place packed. Soon he acquired another vaudeville house and gradually added movies to the bills. He eventually owned 60 theaters, most of them designed by the great Prateca, which extended from Mexico to Canada. All of the big variety stars from the East Coast vied with one another to be booked for pan time. His only competitor on the West Coast was the Orpheum Circuit, later gobbled up by RKO, the Radio Keith Orpheum conglomerate, which had sprung from Joe Kennedy's parent movie company, FBO. By 1929, Alex Pantage was worth $30 million. In 1929, that is a lot of money. The yelping damsel in the red dress was Eunice Pringle, a stage-struck school dropout and would-be dancer from Garden Grove, California. She claimed she had come to see the theater owner to get him interested in an act of hers. She sobbed to the cops that he had tossed her into the mop closet, wrenched her underwear loose, and raped her. Little Eunice had an agent, Nick Dunayev. Rumor had it that he was a shrewdy, and that his client's casual visit to Pantage had been part of a scheme of his, in connivance with his higher powers. She had brought a ticket to the show, had gone up to Pantage's office on the mezzanine level unannounced, and the rest was rape or frame-up. The papers went to town with the case. Hearst's Herald Examiner described Eunice as the sweetest 17 since Clara Bow. The Los Angeles Times called her a full-blown beauty. Pantage claimed that she had been, quote, raped herself, end quote, and she had torn at her clothing and ripped their garments so that it looked as if a crew of sex-hungry sailors had had their way with her. He stated what was common knowledge, that sex was available every few feet in Hollywood, and there was no need for him to molest a moppet in a mop closet. Unfortunately for Alex, when he came to trial, his broken English and foreign airs made a poor impression, whereas sweet-toned Eunice was an instant hit with press and jury. Public opinion was outraged at the goatish Greek millionaire who had deflowered a native daisy from Garden Grove. By the time the case was over, it was apparent that the star of the trial was neither goat nor daisy, but an unknown lawyer named Jerry Geisler, whose brilliant defense of Pantage earned him a reputation that turned him into the lawyer of the stars. If you listen to my reading of Hollywood Babylon 1, Geisler does make an appearance there a few times. Eunice was most demurely dressed during the preliminary hearing. When questioned by the DA, she stated, "He said he wanted me for his sweetheart. I told him I was not interested in sweethearts. I was interested in work, but he continued his advances. He seemed to go crazy. He clapped his hand over my mouth. He bit me on the breast." She claimed that she had fainted and regained consciousness in the mop closet to find that her dress was up and Pantage's private parts were out. Alex maintained that he had been to see him several times before, and on each occasion he had refused to book her act. It was, quote, too suggestive, end quote. When the case came to trial in L.A. Superior Court, Eunice wore a Mary Pickford girlish frock and flat shoes. Her hair was in a bow at the back. She looked 13. After her preliminary testimony, when the court recessed, Geisler requested that when she returned to court the following day, she wear the same clothing and hairstyle which she wore at the time of the alleged attack. When she did, she looked a seductive 20 years old. Despite Geisler's stubborn defense, Pantaget was found guilty and sentenced to 50 years in the jug. Geisler was convinced the verdict could be overturned. He filed an appeal which left its mark on jurisprudence. He argued that it was prejudicial to Pantaget to exclude testimony about the morals of the plaintiff, although she was underage. Prior to this, judges had barred such testimony on the grounds that the morals of a minor were not an issue because a minor was legally incapable of giving assent in a sex case. Geisler carried the case to the California Supreme Court. It granted a new trial in a 40-page ruling which created a precedent for the adjudication of California rape cases. The court commented that, quote, the testimony of the prosecutrix was so improbable that as to challenge credulity. Wow. Why do they write this stuff? The testimony of the prosecutrix was so improbable as to challenge credulity. You know, they probably could have cleaned that up. I could write better than that. Come on. And they ruled that any relevant evidence to the effect that an allegedly damaged party in a rape matter might have been pre-damaged with their own connivance was admissible. The case was retried in 1931. Geisler built his case on the contention that Eunice had conspired with her agent/teacher to compromise Pantaget. Pringle admitted on the stand that her dancing skills included the ability to do a full split. Jake Ehrlich, Geisler's associate, had no difficulty in convincing the jury that an athletic youngster such as Pringle, capable of doing a full split, could easily have fought off an attack from a small middle-aged man such as Pantaget. To clinch the matter, Geisler and Ehrlich reenacted the rape in court. The portly Geisler played Pantaget, Jake played Eunice. Oh, jeez. Okay. The two men performed the scene with realistic finesse right up to their climax. The lawyers made their point. It would have been inconceivable for a rape to have occurred in the mop closet in the fashion described by Eunice. Ehrlich turned up a surprise witness, an old lady who managed the Moonbeam Glen bungalow court, where Eunice and her agent had lived as man and wife, although they were not married. At first, the old lady was an avid reader of Hearst's paper and a member of the Gospel Truth Assembly. Would do nothing to help Pantaget. She declared, quote, I wouldn't help that rich despoiler of women if my life depended on it. They had men like that in Babylon before the fall. The beast, end quote. Ehrlich quoted large passages of the Bible to her at great length and persuaded her of the moral obligation she was under to appear in court. There she picked out the former tenant of Bungalow 45 and saltily testified Eunice's case right out the window. The verdict? Not guilty. The party most disgruntled by the verdict was not little Eunice, but Joseph P. Kennedy, bootlegger to the film colony, head of FBO Pictures, and potter of a future president of the United States. Kennedy had hoped to destroy Pantaget, in the process gobble up the Pantaget's theater circuit. On her deathbed, Eunice confessed that it had been Kennedy who had masterminded the frame-up. The downtown Pantaget Theater was later taken over by Warner Brothers. Ironically enough, most of Errol Flynn's movies were shown there, for it was the court case hatched in the mop closet of this theater which established legal principles which would save Flynn's neck when two underage girls accused the Warner Brothers star of rape. In the 1960s, the theater was acquired by the International Church of Compassion, which replaced much of Proteca's original design with gaudy Fontainebleau Hotel Revival decorations. The church went out of business. When last I saw the place, it had been turned into a jewelry exchange. Pantaget's original solid marble light board with its gold frame, the only light board of its kind in any theater in the world, was still there. The historic mop closet is no more. The movie that was playing at the theater when shop-worn angel Eunice Pringle assumed the role of a chaste Colleen, brutalized by a Greek in heat, was William A. Sider's Why Be Good? It is concerned with the misadventures of a virginal young woman, Colleen Moore, who pretends to be a wanton in order to attract a little attention. That is the end of that chapter.